Hi everybody, this is Ian Ellis. Excuse my voice, it's a little bit croaky, I've got a bit of a cold. Just to explain the logic behind Vincent van Gogh's mixing. The palette I've got here has been listed by the National Gallery Technical Bulletin Team. You can download this for yourself to check it. I've also got a list of all the ways that the colours were mixed. I'm going to my role is really just to show you the logic of the mixing as a painter. And I'm going to go through each colour I'll see in this painting and then explain how much of one colour uses. Looking at the palette, you can see there's about 18 colours I normally have along here if you look to my other videos. And what Van Gogh's done is just narrowed it down to 8 colours. He'd have 2 whites. One was zinc white and the other one is lead white. I've only got titanium white. Zinc white is known as a mixing white because it's very kind of transparent, and the lead white's used for grounds. And underneath this particular painting, they put a lead white. But we're not going to really look at the technique today. We're just going to focus on the mixing. So I'm just going to start off. I've got a list of colours here. Look at the easiest colours first. There's a pale blue sky here. That's just cobalt blue with a bit of white. So starting off with the cobalt blue. Get my tissue ready and my knife. Helps to keep everything very clean and save time with a knife. Then just add in white. Very simple. Called a tint. What's very brilliant about these paintings by Van Gogh, he mixes almost like childlike mixing with very sophisticated mixing. We'll go into this a bit later on. And we've got some really beautiful colours. I mean, there's another thing just by putting just using a tint like that, you're not destroying the colour to the quality of the colour. So this is the ultramarine, the cobalt blue with the white, and the same colour, like I say, just on the hills, and the turquoisey sky. That's just white with viridian. Start with the white. And this is using quite a lot of white in there just to destroy the colour. You don't need to. What's interesting, I always assumed it'd be grey in these colours. I was quite surprised when I saw the actual technical bulletin team the restorer's chart. But as you can see, the colours in the actual painting perhaps have faded a bit over time. So it's interesting to see the beauty of the colour when you just add the white with it. Perhaps how it used to look as well. Now, the hillside is kind of a kind of mustard colour here. The hillside just there, and what you've got is the just using chrome yellow, emerald green. I'm using cadmium yellow and cadmium orange. It's hard to get hold of the chromes, but the chrome yellow is the older colour. It's quite similar to the cadmium yellow now. The chrome yellow perhaps was a little bit more yellow than that, but still get by with them. And I'm going to use the chrome yellow with zinc white. So I'm using the titanium. See, when I'm using titanium white, it's a stronger white, but you just have to use it more carefully with than the zinc. The zinc, because it's transparent, you find you don't kill a colour too easily. And I'm just going to put a little bit of white with the yellow there. And then there's a touch of emerald green in there. This is the emerald green here. And there's a little bit of vermilion coming in, tiny bit of vermilion coming into it. Now I'm going over here, but remember this is like a big circle of colours. So this colour really is quite close. It's over this side as well. So I'm just going to stick a bit of vermilion in that. Then more white. And I'm starting to get the colour now. which is down here. Looks a little bit dull. I'm using the Viridian green. What's interesting is, so the emerald green. The emerald green is quite complementary. If you mix these two together, the emerald green and the vermilion, you see you're getting a really nice dark, almost dark grey there. And that's I think one of the main ways that Van Gogh darkens his colours. But he also uses two colour mixing, but I'll show you that in a second. But if you can use a little bit of this grey into that colour, not that much, tiny bits of colour when you're mixing. And I've got this lovely colour at the back there. So I've got the cadmium yellow, emerald green, bit red, and I've got that lovely mustard kind of coloured the whole side. Then that. Now, the mid-green brush, this is a kind of mid-green brush over this side, which is quite similar. You see some of the same colours in the olive trees. What you'll find is using for ultramarine blue, Viridian green and emerald. I've got the emerald there. Pull this over that side, just make sure I clean my brush. And Viridian, so the green needs to be darker, so it's mixing the two together. Just over that side. Ultramarine blue comes into it. Which is interesting because it's not used the cobalt blue, which is slightly closer. It's gone for the colour further away to get the darker colour. So just a bit further away. So this is two colour mixing. I think most painters know have a kind of feel for two colour mixing without really knowing the logic. But Van Gogh would have been aware of that. That would have been when you just by practicing mixing, you find that as you're doing the mixing over many years, you start getting to know these things, you know. But it's handy if you know the logic of it as well, because you go further away, making that dark green, and bits of yellow in there as well. The chrome yellow comes into it, which is then cadmium yellow I'm using, and just darken it a bit more with the ultramarine blue. And it's starting to get dark. And just a little bit more yellow. Shift it over to more of it. Then dark again with the ultramarine. And there is a little bit of white, and the white will then just kill it slightly, graze it slightly as well, and lightens it and takes out the intensity of the hue. Going a bit more darker colour with more of the cadmium in that. Just a little bit more. Quite a lot of ultramarine blue I'm putting in this to get that colour. That's getting closer to it. A bit more yellow. I think it needs a bit more yellow in that as well, just to shift it over. There we go. And more white, just to kill it a little bit. That's killing it nicely. Just graze it a little bit. The white just takes off the sharpness of the colour. Just a little more yellow in that. It's just looking a little bit more intense than the actual colour I'm looking at. Like I said, I reckon that will perhaps because its colour's faded. And if I now put this colour next to these, this colour here and these colours, you get these fantastic combinations. Just looking at those colours together, look amazing, you know. Bottom green right is much more of a kind of yellow green. And that's just using chrome yellow, emerald green, zinc white, so that's quite a nice strong. So I've got the emerald green here and the yellow, and straight away I've got that colour and a bit of white with it. My white's getting a bit dirty over there. Really important to keep things clean, everybody. You know, just my knife, it's clean straight away. Just getting it really clean. Take the white. That's nice, and that, again, throw that colour next to that. Got these greens down there. They're more intense again, but I'm putting more white. See if I can get the in full glory of these colours. You can see this is really intense colour. And that's how it would have looked in those days. I mean, these colours have got a kind of real freshness about them, which Van Gogh would have loved. And according to the technical bulletin team, these are the colours we use. So that's in there. So it is perhaps, you know, over the time it has faded quite a lot. Now the dark brown on the Cornfield, which is a kind of chrome yellow, vermilion, and viridian. So vermilion's coming into again, viridian. Viridian and vermilion are like complementary colours. So you get the two complementaries, you mix them together, you get black. Like emerald green's very close to viridian, so when you put them two together, you get a lovely black, which I assume is used for the tree to get the really dark colours as well. And the chrome yellow and the vermilion, get more chrome yellow, get more of the chrome. Change my tissue, it's getting now dirty. And then going back to get the dark brown, make this more of an orange. And then start adding black. And it's off to there. Now, they say there's a bit of earth pigment in that colour. I don't know what earth pigment it was. I can assume it's the perhaps the yellow ochre coming into this. What you can do is use a little bit of green with it to get that idea. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of emerald, just to, or even stay with the viridian. The viridian would be okay. Just a bit more green, just to make it more. Just losing it a little bit, go back to the, went too green. Getting close to that now, but more white with it. More yellow. And you can see what I'm doing, I'm just shifting the colour over. And when Van Gogh was mixing, you've just got to look at a colour. When you're mixing a colour for a painting, it's a case of just looking at the colour if it looks good. And then it's just keep checking. This is, see, it's looking a better colour. It's looking much more golden. As it's getting very close to that, and I'm just going to use a bit more white with that. But again, I'm getting a more intense colour. But to copy this, it's hard to know exactly which colour. So I'm going to go for the black, a bit more black in there. A bit more red. That's just about that now. Just a little bit more white. Just kill it. That's nice. Quite a lot of white being used actually to get that colour down towards the kill the colour a bit more, and it's still keeping its beauty. You're not going a chalky colour yet. Just keep adding that to that, and I can taking it right down to these colours here. It's a bit more red with it, perhaps a little bit more grey. Get it perfect. Taking a while, but having to put more grey with it. I'm still a bit too intense. That's it. Getting there, and a bit more white. we go, it's getting there now. Again, bring this colour over to this side for the field. You got, it looks great, doesn't it? You can see it's just got a wonderful feel for colour, Van Gogh. You can see that it's got these different levels of saturation. So being in the different purity, but they just look so good, and it's so difficult in painting. Is that to get these different levels of saturation and make them work together like that as a group of painting. Now, any other colours in there? I think we've completed most of the colours there. Just maybe the cornfield itself. I've got most of the colours from the mustard field there. Perhaps the grey-green colour we've got over here. This is I've not mixed it yet. Let's have a look at that. The pale green brushes are just on the right side here, and it's Viridian green, chrome yellow, and I assume lots of white because it's really a bit more blue. Just looking at it, looks a bit more of a blue green, and then adding the lots of white to that colour. You get the pale greens going towards more Viridian. And throw those over there. And we've got these dark lines in. Just a final finish off of what he'll do when he's doing his painting. He'll start finishing off with a bit of drawing. And the dark blue lines, you've got emerald green and ultramarine. Now this is a two-colour mixing. That's where you get you end up with a dark colour of these. So it's a dark blue line. It's probably going to be a cobalt blue, dark cobalt blue. You've got emerald green. Add that to that, and you're going to get this dark cobalt blue. And use these for some of these dark lines or blue lines that are in there. Again, you're drawing around these colours. You're drawing on them. Anyway, yeah, if you're unsure about some of the ways I've mixed here, just check out my other videos that explain how two-colour mixing works. The mixing with black is quite simple. You're mixing around black, but a lot of this colour Van Gogh was using pairs to mix shades of other colours in between. And if you want to know more about that, just check in on the other videos I've already done. So, see you again. Bye. That's physically mixing colour, everybody. Remember, that's controlling the light of the painting with the aim to get the painting to glow. Now, how does Vincent van Gogh use technique to increase that glow? That's going to be the next video. So thanks for now. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to share this with anyone you know will be interested. So, see you soon.